Now, a lot of you may have been doing academic writing up until this point where you had citations, endnotes, or footnotes that you would put in your document, and that would show where the information came from. Well, in journalism, we use attribution. Now, attribution really shows where the expertise comes from. So who is this person that gave us information, or what document, or what website? Why should this convey to us some level of experience that would allow us to trust it? Basically, you know what opinions are like. And a journalist's opinion really doesn't mean much to the reader of the story. It's the sources who provide the opinions that mean something, the expertise. We need to know what makes that source have expertise so that we can trust the information that they're providing to us. So attribution basically tells us this. Where's information coming from? Who's being quoted? Why they have expertise on the topic? And how did you get the information? Did you talk to them? Was it an email? Was it in a document? So here's an example. Be fearful of mediocrity. We have the attribution right here, Jonathan Ellery. So what does it look like? I'm going to give you this example here. This is from NOLA, which Times-Picayune website, ran a story about a murder-suicide, about a high school football player named Matthew Tardo, found dead in his home. His father was also found dead. So this is a quote from the story, and you can read the quote, and then I've highlighted for you the attribution. So the quote comes from Colonel John Fortunato, spokesman for the sheriff's office. And then you can see there's another way that we provide attribution, which is below that. The Jefferson Parish coroner is also cited. He's not quoted, and so we're going to look at what the differences are between these. So the first one is a quote with attribution. This is what someone says verbatim. It's exactly what they said, and you need to write it down exactly the way they say it and repeat it. It can't be changed, and it's identified by quote marks. So everything that's within those quote marks is actually verbatim what they stated. So you can see this is what's in the quote mark, and then we have the attribution. Said Colonel John Fortunato, spokesman for the sheriff's office. Now the other option that we have here is called a paraphrase. A paraphrase is, this is pretty much what they said, but it doesn't have to be exactly. I've taken some things out of it. I haven't changed the meaning in any way, but it's not exactly right. It's this general idea. And so in this case, we still use attribution, the Jefferson Parish coroner, and he said it's difficult for investigators to ascertain his exact time of death. So this is what he said, but it's not an exact quote. Now, the rules of facts, let's look at this story from Philly.com talking about a study that said the U.S. is the only advanced economy that doesn't require paid vacation days. So what we have here are paraphrasing of facts, and then we support those facts with a quote. And notice how they're both attributed. So the report released Friday by the Center for Economic and Policy Research, that's the attribution, and it gives us this factual information. And then we get a supporting quote with attribution. Relying on businesses to voluntarily provide paid leave just hasn't worked, comma, said John Schmidt, senior economist and co-author of the report. Now, if you didn't see it, you need to attribute it. Remember, the truth is a slippery slope. So even if you saw someone what you think is jumping off a fourth floor ledge, you're not sure. Did he jump? Did he get pushed? Did he fall? So even when you see it, we still need to attribute it, and we need to get it from expert sources. So just because there's someone standing on the street corner there who sees this happen doesn't necessarily make them an expert. We get law enforcement officials, we get people who are real qualified eyewitnesses to things. Now, citing attribution on the first reference of the person that you are attributing, you use their full name and their title, and then other important qualifiers to show their expertise. So in this case, we had, the earlier example, we had the gentleman's name, we had the fact that he was the coroner. That's significant, we need to know that. Second reference, we're gonna just have last name, and we may have some additional details. So, he lives in the neighborhood or whatever it might be. We attribute once per paragraph, so we don't have to attribute 3 or 4 times in a paragraph, and really your paragraph should only be about 1 sentence anyway, so you're not going to have much time to do more than 1 attribution. We usually use said and asked unless there's a really good reason not to. We want to try to avoid mind reading, so what someone believes or thinks, we don't really know what they think or believe. And then the quote marks identify the quote. So remember, everything that's in a quote mark is an actual authentic verbatim quote, and punctuation marks go inside of those quote marks. So here's an example. She went on vacation, comma. So notice how the sentence is structured with a quote. The quote mark opens the quote. We have the full sentence of the quote, but it doesn't end with a period. It ends with a comma, close quote, and then the attribution. He said with a period. remember that the attribution goes after the first sentence of a quote. Now we use a comma to set off someone's hometown or their age. You can see this example right here. She went on vacation, comma, close quote, Mary Tucson, Tuckahoe, New York, said. She got back yesterday, period, end quote. So notice when we have the second sentence in a quote like this, when the second sentence ends, that's where we put the actual period.